Well, hello everybody. This is Brother Todd with you, Victory Minute. As I'm recording this morning, it's just a little bit past morning time. I was headed up to the office and I pulled over here on the gravel road coming out of Rosser and thought I'd make this minute real quick. I want to talk to you about the question that's been in my head since I got up this morning. The first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning was, the question was, but I knew kind of how I meant it when I said it to myself, was, does it matter that we're here? Does it matter that we're here? And you say, Brother Todd, that's a pretty big philosophical question. I don't think you're going to cover it on some gravel road in Rosser, Texas. No, what I mean is not what has God done in creating us and his ultimate plan for us. I just mean, does it matter that we, the church, are here right now in this situation, in this pandemic? Never been a major event on the planet church didn't have part of it. Almost 2,000 years now, in most places in the world, wherever the gospel's been preached and wherever people had accepted it, the church, the very few of the church, the remnant as it were, has always had a major impact in people's lives during times that are trying, times that are difficult. The church was birthed out of difficulty. You know, we talked today about not being able to go to church and the authorities getting on us, this and that. And guys, truth is, for the first 300 years of the church, the authorities would burn down every building a church tried to build. They met from house to house most of the time, caves and all that kind of stuff, and they'd burn down people's houses. They'd do everything in the world to try to keep the church out of the world. That's the devil's oldest trick. You don't know it. When you move into a culture where there is no Christian witness, the first thing the devil will do is, in his group will be to try to keep the church out of the world. And if and when that fails, and it ultimately does, then he'll try to put the world in the church. And so the church is always battling between the persecution on the outside and the desire in our flesh to compromise on the inside. It's as old as the church is itself. I know you didn't want a history lesson on that this morning, but that's just a reality. My question was, though, really just what are we doing? What are we going to do? And I mean the grand scheme of the church. I mean our individual churches, and in particular I'm thinking about Victory Church, which is where most of probably you listening to me go, or you definitely probably got a local church somewhere if you probably listened to me for very long. If you don't have a church, you find you one where they preach Jesus. The preacher don't talk about himself, and you don't hear about money 70 times a day. But anyway, apart from saying all that, back to my question I keep rambling around, is it going to matter that we were here? Is it going to matter that we were here during this time? Churches in a lot of ways have become irrelevant. We got buildings that people drive by every day, nobody goes into. Most of the world knows what's even going on inside. Most Christians are pretty quiet about what's going on in their own personal life. We lack a power from prayer. We lack the power of a transformation. Peter was afraid of a little girl one night, and he's bold as a lion a few days later. You know, he got transformed by the resurrected Christ. And all of us that's been saved have experienced that, but we get to living in this world and just get to dealing with things as they are. A lot of times we lose what God has given us to make an impact. And I know the same question probably comes to your mind, comes to mine, is, Lord help, what, Todd, I'm just part of a little old local church. I'm a little part of Victory, just a little old church. What can we really do to stem a tide? And I was thinking about how, when Paul went from Asia to Europe, okay, when he crossed over there and he heard the Macedonian call in that dream, so to speak, when he went over, he didn't go over there and stick a flag in the ground, so I'm claiming Europe for Jesus. He went and talked to Lydia, a woman who was a merchant, and a pretty good one. And that's the first convert in Europe. When on the day of Pentecost, when the people come up and was asking Peter and them, what's going on here? What's going on? The church was speaking in such authority and power and speaking languages. Everybody was hearing in their own language. I mean, God was obviously moving. And they wanted to know, what is this? That's the great question they asked. They said, what is this? Well, Peter didn't start making a declaration about claiming Jerusalem, okay, or a declaration over the temple courts and grounds. He started speaking to the people, the individuals that asked him the question. They asked, what is this? And he says, this is that, which was spoken of by the prophet Joel. And if you know the story of the day of Pentecost, they ask another question right after he got through talking, and that's, what must we do to be saved? And so they saw what was happening in Peter and them. Then they heard the gospel, and many of them wanted it. Many didn't believe it, just like always. There'll be people that don't believe it, people are. But the point I'm trying to make is that you take those two grand apostles, they didn't go out claiming space. They went out reaching people, individuals. I know you heard those stories, old as they come. I'm not sure going to act like I have thought this up, because it's way too old and cliche, frankly. But it's in my mind right now, so I'll share it with you. You all know the story about the little boy woke up there and the tide left all the starfish up there on the ground, there on the beach, and he's walking along, pitching. There's thousands of them. He's pitching one here, one here, one here in the water, and old man walks up to him and said, "Boy, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm saving these starfish." He's, "Man, all these thousands of starfish, you're not going to make a difference to any of them." And about that time, he pitched one of them in the water. He said, "Made a difference to that one." And so, that's a reality. I know that's an old story, okay? But and you knew what I was going to tell you when I started talking it. But think about the reality of it. God may not give us the quote unquote world, okay? But the truth is, God sends us to people, and you get enough people, then you got a world, right? You got a culture, you got a community, you got a family. But the reality is, the message is meant for the individual. God didn't do one work on the day of Pentecost and 3,000 people. He didn't in one fell swoop just save, by the miracle of salvation, 3,000 people. No, he worked the miracle of salvation 3,000 times in each one of those individual lives. And so, you look at here behind me. I mean, Lord help, guys, this is the second main road coming into the town I live in. I mean, it's pretty country, okay? I mean, what in the world are we going to do running up and down on gravel roads? I mean, if we ain't got a gravel road, we're in a pothole. What are we going to do? Well, we can reach the one person. Our little church can impact the people that God lets you contact with today. Some of you're going to run into people personally. Okay, that's how we normally used to do it. It's how some of us will still do it today, moving around, during this pandemic. I'm going to turn this low battery thing off. It drives me nuts. But guys, these phones we've got, the church has never had the tools we got now. I sometimes the thought runs through my head, what would the Apostle Paul done with an iPhone? We got the almost the whole wealth of human knowledge in our pockets. And what do we do with them? I told somebody one time, I said, I'm walking around with the wealth of human knowledge in my pocket, people sending cat pictures to each other, cat videos to each other, pictures of their dogs. And, while I'm sure we all love our animals, the truth is we've got so much opportunity. Your life group is a text away. Your neighbor is, 9 numbers, 10 numbers? 10 little digits away from you talking to them right where they are, right in the middle of their pandemic, of this whole big pandemic. That Walmart checker is having to work. There's so many essential people out there, and we're coming into contact with them. We've just got to have an eternal perspective. And so I want to end with my first question. Does it matter that we're here? Is it going to matter that we were here? Is there going to be any time through this time where there is the mark of the Christian upon it? Is there going to be the mark of your church? And for those of y'all that come to Victory, we have to ask the question, is there going to be a mark, a definite impact made in the lives of men and women, boys and girls, because we were here at this time? Now that, my good friends, is an inescapable question. And if we don't have the capacity to leave a mark, we are not of those who have bled, worked, sweated, gave, been used to their fullest of those who followed Christ for the last 2,000 years. And we just have, that's a question that's got to be answered. And we've got to say whether or not we're going to be about the Father's business. There was a day, Peter, it's talking about Peter and Paul, grabbed up his clothes and said, I'm going to follow. There was a day when Paul said, you know what? I'm going to be used. In fact, Paul said it was every day. Jesus said you got to pick up your cross daily and follow me. Is the reality of our Christianity going to matter in these times? And you say, Brother Todd, again, that's a big question. No, it ain't. It's one person. It's one thing. It's one thought. It's just one after another. Let's let God be in charge of the harvest. Let's get the seed in the ground, and if you know where there's seed in the ground, you get out there and water and you weed around it, as it were. Paul said, I planted and Apollos watered, but God gave the increase, and God has the capacity to take our little bitty puny efforts and our good intentions and our expressions of the word and our helpfulness and our love, and he has the capacity to take and mark a generation and a time for the glory of his son. Well, I love you. I hope you have a great day. Let this be burning around in your head a little bit. Does it matter that we're here right now? Love you. Bye-bye.